Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Binding of Isaac Repentance, and today we're gonna be playing another run like usual, so nothing has changed, so I don't know why I made a big deal out of it. I was thinking that today we could do a very unimpressive character, Lazarus. I beat the game with him once because I had to unlock Bethany, but now we can actually give him a proper try to actually respawn, utilize his special ability of being able to die once, and maybe do something there. Today I have no repentance news, I have no one to throw shade on. We tackled the anti-vaxxers, we had to handle the people who thought repentance was too hard, and now I'm all out of targets. So let's just have a nice clean run today. How about that, huh? Actually, surprisingly, when just to give you a status update about how far I am into the entire Isaac stratosphere. Oh, that's a nice little get. No spirit hearts and a troll bomb. Well, thank you very much. I'll be leaving. I've actually built a little bit of hard mode yesterday. I don't think I did much. I think maybe I won on 2 runs and got to like Shoal and the Cathedral. I'm just trying to grind out the unlocks. I'm still not sure how to get to any of the alternate floors or how to unlock any of the new content. And I'll be honest, I feel like I'm getting left behind in this entire ecosystem of YouTube, because people at this point are already basically beating the game, beating all the new final bosses, unlocking all the new characters. And I'm just like, well, I beat Blue Baby the first time yesterday. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm taking it at my own pace. It's very much a conscious decision, but still, it feels a little bit bad. I'm like, wow, you know, I need to give. There's a lot of things I just haven't discovered yet, and frankly, I'm excited for it. But at the same time, I'm like, oh my god, when's it gonna happen? And I do have to say that initial Isaac excitement, I wouldn't say it's running off. Not excitement, maybe, but just like the raw energy I have, or the raw appeal, or how much time I'm willing to place into playing the game. I'm still playing it quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but obviously you can't sustain that 10-hour a day in game time for a prolonged period of time, especially with all other things I have to be doing. But still, I'm having a nice time. I feel like this is gonna be something I'm gonna keep doing, playing the game, making videos like this. Hopefully some other videos as well. I have some ideas that I can make in the sense of Isaac quick tips or something like that, especially now that I've discovered a couple of new interesting things in Repentance, and some little changes which I think it should be documented somewhere. Well, maybe not documented, but just brought to attention so people know kind of what they're getting into. And fighting the Duke of Flies with Lusty Blood is a gift from the heavens above. And this is probably a sign that we're gonna have a good run this one, huh? So let's try to make the best of it. I'm really interested in seeing how the new challenges. So this is something I was thinking about yesterday, but challenges kind of change with every single update, with every DLC. They're a little bit different, and I'm kind of interested in seeing how they turn out with Repentance, with all of the changes that actually happened and occurred in the game. If they're gonna be easier, some might be harder. I remember when Afterbirth Plus came out, maybe it was even Afterbirth, some challenges became actually undoable. They were impossible to complete. Why did I think there was a spirit heart here? My bad. Yeah, so they made some challenges impossible, I think, and they were patched in later to be made possible, which is kind of funny. you have to admit, because challenges. No, don't get me wrong. I think challenges are a nice little part of the game. But especially the early ones are not super interesting, I would say, because I mean that's a good room with 4 red hearts and the ability to respawn. I might take advantage of that. So the early challenges, what I was trying to say, are they're okay. They're fun. You get some combinations of items, and of course when Rebirth first came out, the biggest selling point was all the new crazy synergies, and at this point. That's not really the selling point anymore, because I think the expectations have been raised, and I mean, maybe not rightfully so, but we're just used to so much of a higher standard of Isaac. Oh my god, nice Cricket's head. Great damage upgrade. Very happy to get that. So now the initial challenges are, I wouldn't say a slog, but they're pretty much what you would expect to find in a normal run. And then the later challenges, I think we all know, some are just insanely difficult and frustrating, and then the others are, well, that was a fly and a half. These green flies, they're a little bit odd sometimes, because they have a certain pattern they fall into if they're other flies, but sometimes if you destroy their leading fly, the one that they're following, they can make some very weird and unpredictable turns, and you end up getting hit. But that's what makes it fun. And then, yeah, like I said, there are some new challenges like speed and, what is it, ultra hard or something like that, which are just, you know, good luck with those. Especially with Repentance, because they did make the game a little bit harder. I'm afraid of not being able to find, maybe, you can't really find, or I would say it's rarer to find those items which are gonna kind of break the game for you, and you're just gonna be able to win on top of that. But I do have another one to pick, I just remembered. Because I remember reading online that Brimstone and Mom's Knife and basically all of those OP items were nerfed to the point where they were not useless, but they weren't game winners anymore. And I feel like that's just not true. I had both of those items yesterday with basically no damage upgrades, and I was slapping. I was slapping enemies left and right. They just stood no chance. So I'm not sure if we're all playing a different kind of game, or what's going on there. Two of Hearts, I just noticed. I have the Two of Hearts. I'm trying to focus because I need this Devil Deal, and if nothing else, I need the Angel Deal chance. He's doing a lot of bubbles, and I appreciate the bubbles because it's really friggin' cute. Oh my god, so that hit me? I thought it was just below it. Oh, I guess now I can kiss my chances goodbye. No more Devil Deals for me. I just walked right into that one. Yeah, I said, good thing I have the Two of Hearts, because now I can play the Blood Bank and actually use the Two of Hearts, but now I can only play it once, because the Fly Lord ended up destroying me. There's no shame in that. I mean, he has a very specific tactic, I feel, and his tactic is be cute, so because you're cute, the enemies will not want to hurt you. And I'll have to say, pretty good tactic. Works on me. One of the cutest new bosses, maybe the cutest new boss. He's definitely up there in terms of that category. Now, Isaac, a lot of people find Isaac a little bit disgusting from my experience, at least from the people I've talked to. But really, a lot of it is kind of really cute as well, you have to admit. Like giving the money to this little fella, that's kind of cute, you have to admit. That fly boss that we were just talking about also has some cute properties. So I feel like a lot of people just miss out on the cuteness factor of Isaac. And I'll go even farther than that. Portable slot, I don't need... I mean, that's... I wish I could have both of these items at the same time, so I could have the blood bag and the portable slot machine, because that would be essentially an infinite amount of plays, and I could just get a ton of consumables, but sadly, that is not the case, is it? So yeah, I'm going to go even farther than that and say that Isaac, not only does he have a cute factor, I mean the game has a cute factor, but it also has a cool factor. Like a lot of items in Isaac are pretty freaking cool. That was a lucky get, and I'll never say no to a nice little spirit heart. So in that sense, Isaac encompasses both cuteness, both coolness, and grossness. So it really does hit the trifecta of any popular media that people are interested in these days. And I do feel to an extent, if you're creating something like a game or a show or whatever, it has to have a selling point. People have to be like, oh, you know, well, this series, like it's super cool, like it's nice, it's evoke or whatever. Like you need a descriptor for people to be interested in, and of course then you can start layering on top of it. Like for example, I'm watching Attack on Titan, and you know, it's a long wait, but I just realized, maybe I shouldn't say this out loud. No, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. I won't spoil anything. But it's a kind of show where you're like, well, it's a show that has an interesting premise. It's cool, it's mysterious, and most of all, there are titans, and that's an instant selling point because like there's giant human-like beings which look just weird enough to be monsters, and they eat humans for lunch. And that's just a cool concept. It's like, wow, I've never seen this before. And then people are like, I want to check this out, and they start watching it. It's like, oh, you know, this is actually really good. Like Full Metal Alchemist, another favorite of mine. Very easy to get into. It has kind of a little bit of everything. A show which has magic, of course, magic. By magic, I mean alchemy. Has some nice character building. Has a nice, interesting world. There's, you know, something to like for everybody. And again, I think most people can describe it as, for example, being cool. I think it's a very cool show. I think that the very act of drawing circles and conjuring with them, it's cool. And that's Isaac has a lot of those properties, except I would say a little grimmer, for sure, quite a lot grimmer. It's not, I think if you look into it, it's not a happy story, but there's a big market for sad, unhappy, and scary stories, frankly. This is another interesting thing about our history, I think, and what our relationship was to gross or maybe even scary stuff. Because for the longest time, people were just not used to anything that was not PG-13. And as soon as people fought, or there was basically any semblance of gore or even any violence, people were like, we can't watch this. This is insane. And then with time, there was like a small period in I would say the 80s, the 90s, where gore was perfectly fine. Everyone was like, I'm bored. Let's watch something scary. And then The Exorcist came out, and everyone was like, well, this is the best thing we've ever seen. Maybe not the best thing, but this is definitely the most engaging thing we've ever seen. And it's basically, I mean, I don't know if you've seen The Exorcist. It's, I would say, a horror classic. But in my opinion, it's not what I would call an excellent film. I think it stands the test of time, for sure. Like, I think it's very much watchable. And but in today's day and age, it comes off kind of silly, in my opinion, because just, you know, we're so used to all other things, and in that movie is basically just, here's a little girl who's possessed by a demon, and at this point we're like, I've heard that story a million times before. Nothing interesting there. And then there's a few scenes where she's like puking green bile, and it all looks very comical. Like it's not very scary at all. Mostly because I would say it looks fake, but it doesn't look like, that's a great little room, isn't it? A lot of money opportunity here, and hopefully a nickel or a dime would go a long way, but I guess that's not the case. So yeah, The Exorcist. She pukes a little bit, but it doesn't really look scary. And also some of the scenes, you know, I'm not gonna quote them because they're a little bit vile, and definitely not appropriate for I would say the YouTube audience, or even what YouTube wants to have on the platform. But it's not in many regards. It's gory, yeah. It's scary, I guess, if you really believe in demons and you're afraid of exorcism and them demons possessing you. And honestly, as far as fears go, I get it. Like that's a very scary prospect for something that they control over your body and do evil things. I think it's just as irrational as being afraid of, I don't know, flies or spiders or confined spaces. Except, I mean, you could value the validity of those fears, like how likely it is for a demon to possess you. But still, you know, in the general scheme of things, if you're afraid of demons or spirits or something like that, don't let people shit talk you into not. I mean, into telling you that your fears aren't valid, because it's like, those are scary things. You know, I'm afraid of a bear mauling me. Is it likely for it to happen? Not at all, but if I was in that situation, I'd be scared, right? I'm not actively afraid of it in the sense, I mean, I hope you're not actively afraid of it either, because if you are, then maybe that's something you need to talk to about someone, because I don't think walking the world expecting that the demon's gonna possess you at every wake of the street is necessarily healthy. And just in general, like if you're afraid of anything actively, which is preventing you from enjoying your life, you know, that's what I would say is a problem. and at that point, you know, you're trying to look for some help. So hopefully you can not live in fear. But as far as, I would say, less active fears, just as fears which exist in the back of your mind, you know, being possessed by a demon, I think a very, very valid, very understandable fear. Now, I'm not religious or anything, but just like I said, you know, it's You see all kinds of things. I've had a little period of time where I actually watch exorcism documentaries, and that's some mighty interesting stuff. Like there's like just the fact what's going on in people's minds, like how it comes to it, and just like the entire scene. Like that's what's really scary. You know, the exorcism, The Exorcist, the movie, there's nothing on real exorcisms. Well, I guess most exorcisms are really boring. Actually, I've learned to find out people just kind of spaz out. I mean, even spazzing out is not that likely. It's usually just people doing wacky things, which could be attributed to just like an inordinate amount of alcohol. But sometimes you get really freaky stuff, and you're like, I'm not sure if I should call a neurologist for this one. Is this person just actually having some a mental breakdown, or is there something else going on? But you know, I feel like when dealing with an exorcism, you'll need more than just a priest. Like obviously, you know, if it's like a religious thing that you call a priest, but it feels like it should be a multi-person operation. Like you need a medic, an evac on the side. You need someone who's gonna provide mental like support for everyone involved, because it seems like it's a laborious process, and a mentally taxing one. Because like, holy crap, we're dealing with a demon here. That's it's just like what the hell, right? I wake up this morning and I'm afraid of, I don't know, missing my meeting, and then I have to deal with these things. Like it's a whole new spectrum of problems I didn't even know I had to deal with as a human being in this day and age. But hey, here we are, right? There's always just like one priest which happens to just be proficient in everything, I guess. I guess not everything. I guess you call the priest just to get the demon out, which is probably your primary concern in that situation. But you know, for sure, like I'm thinking like the aftercare, like mental wellness checkups, like all of those things. Like that feels like it should be a part of standard procedure for something like that. Guppy's head. Well, I think Guppy's head is great. I think it's an excellent item, but I think we have a good thing going on here with Ivy Bag and a lot of red hearts. So I'll just stick to that, and especially because I need money to donate in my donation machines. I'll take this. I have no qualms about taking Liberty Cap. And we have the school bag, which would allow me to have 2 active items, so you know what, I'll buy it just for the sake of it. And hopefully okay, that was completely my bad, obviously. I mean, most damage, I would say maybe even all damage is my bad. I'll buy this as well, you know what? To hell with it. I'll try to get to 700 cents. This is my goal for this machine. Maybe it's optimistic. Maybe it's not optimistic. Maybe it's exactly what... Maybe I got just exactly what I needed or wanted in this case. Or maybe I didn't. That's fair too. So yeah, Exorcism is wild. Completely wild. I've been on a bunch of documentaries this season, so this year. And I figured if I'm gonna be stuck inside, and I'm gonna be faced with dealing with COVID and all other kinds of depressing stuff, I might just as well like watch depressing stuff about real life. Because exorcism, oftentimes, not just exorcism, but everything that's related to like the otherworldly supernatural, has a certain hint of, I would say, depression, if not desperation, with it. And it's not what I would say a nice sight. It's not a pleasant thing to watch. So one thing, I just want to comment on one thing. So back in the day, what used to happen with Isaac is if you had an IV bag and you had a blood donation machine, you could actually use the IV bag and then use the invisibility frames to run into the blood donation machine. But they actually changed that, and now you can't actually cheese it anymore, which I think is a good change. And for sure, it makes breaking a lot harder. but it's a change, and we're gonna get adjusted to it. I think in the grand scheme of things, it is a fair change, because the ability to play, for example, like 7 different blood machines with basically just 1 red health was a little bit OP. And the fact if you're invisible, you can still do it and not lose your health. So for example, if you had something like Unicorn Stamp, or even cards like the Unicorn or whatever. Not the Unicorn. You know what? You know the one I'm talking about. Okay, so this is gonna be a little bit of a... Okay, maybe... Okay, it's fine. I could have used my IV bag to trigger some invisibility frames there, but it's fine, we got tricked. That's all that matters. So the commentaries. I wanna tell you a bit more about some of the things I've watched this year. And I'll tell you, like, a lot of documentaries, I love them. A lot of documentaries which are feature length, so an hour and a half or more, are actually just kind of... I should have taken Skinny Odd Mushroom now that I think about it, because I do have quite a bit of damage. Having the ability to shoot faster would be great. Anyway, documentaries. This is more important now than Isaac. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. Like, this is something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I need to get it out. But feature-length documentaries, most often than not, they're not full of content. Like, if you're gonna watch something that's related to documentaries, watch a show. Watch something like Planet Earth, or maybe even something like geopolitical or whatever. Like, I enjoyed Rotten a lot. I think that had some interesting things. But basically anything that's in serial form, which has episodes, which are like, let's say, a max of an hour long. Because feature-length documentaries just end up repeating everything that they say. They just say everything like 7 times, and it's not fun. Like, if you just want to have it in on the background and just have something to idly listen to or watch as you're doing something else, fine, you know. I mean, put on anything you want. But in terms of just actually something that requires your full focus, full feature-length documentaries are just not it. I love Crack the Sky, by the way. It seems like it's a great item. And in fact, I can use it alongside my Ivy bag. Just beautiful. I always loved it, especially now with a new sound effect. It's freaking great. So here, let me give you an example. So if you watch a documentary and you kind of know what the premise is. So for example, I was watching Glass Action Park yesterday, and I'm sure that maybe my American viewers are going to be a little bit more aware with the story than my European ones. But basically, it was a water park created by a rich man who kind of resembles an evil villain. I will get an additional charge. I think that's going to save me a lot of headache with the boss. So I'll just go do that while I'm explaining the documentary here. But basically, it was a water park which was super dangerous. And I'm not saying like super dangerous like people got hurt, but super dangerous as in people died. And that thing was open for a really long time. My favorite story out of that one was probably the part where they set up, it wasn't like a water slide, but it was just a regular slide, and there were like some PVC pipes going down the hill, and they made this giant metal ball, and you're supposed to be encased in that ball, which had like another ball in it, and it had wheels on top of it, and the idea was that you would actually go inside the ball and descend on the PVC pipes, and that would kind of lead you to your destination. But of course, that entire thing was super heavy. And what ended up happening in the summer was because of the heat, the pipes expanded a little bit, which kind of ruined the trajectory, the intended trajectory of the ball. And when they actually put their first human in to try and actually take a ride, what ended up happening was the ball actually veered off course, went rolling down the hill, and then ended up going to the highway. For some reason, the park was built on like, basically there was a highway in the middle of it. Yeah, the ball went on the highway, and then they ended up in like a weird pond, and it was just fine. They just scrapped it and were like, yeah, this is not going to work. But with that said, that's kind of the level of quality you can expect, or like the level of safety you can expect from this park. The fact that someone had this idea and was like, hey, let's try to build it. They built it. They had a test run. They were like, no, this is a little bit too dangerous. It's like, what are you talking about? This is insanely dangerous. This is not something that's gonna fly. But of course, it was the 80s, it was the 90s, and it was a different time back then, so, you know, you have to keep that in mind when you're watching these things. But still, like, just a fascinating story. And what made the documentary really good was the fact that, I mean, towards the end, it did kind of veer off course a little bit, I would say, because it wasn't really about the park, it was more about how it affected the people. And, you know, that's totally fair. To put in your documentary if you're gonna create something like that. And I think especially in the context of the park, it's important because there was a lot of people had a lot of affection for it, and they grew up with it, and you know, it's just kind of something they talk about. It's like, oh, remember that used to be so crazy. And I get including that in your documentary, but just from terms of pacing, it does definitely go down a little bit, right? But still, overall, just like an excellent documentary. And then there's some others So yeah, the point I was trying to make there is, so because you kind of know what the premise is, you know that this is like a super dangerous spike. That's exactly what they say in the intro, in the description. They don't really try to pull any wool over your head. They're just like, yeah, it's a dangerous spike. It's like, okay, cool. And they're just like, let me tell you why it's dangerous. And then just kind of start listing off these stories and testimonials, and it's just a great little bit of fun. So they're not trying to like prolong the reveal that it is a dangerous spike. They kind of assume you know that going in. Obviously they mention it, but that's basically where it is at. I also watched Three Identical Strangers, which was touted as a great documentary by a lot of people, but I just found it needlessly convoluted and just something that didn't really like serve any purpose, to be honest, because nothing really was explained. The entire premise of that show, that documentary, was that the Three Identical Strangers, so basically if you don't know what's going on there, it's basically about three people who were a part of some like social experiment or whatever, and they were separated at birth to essentially see if they are gonna grow up different, or like how much of it is nurture versus nature, you know, like something that's been that a lot of scientists, or like a lot of people have been trying to figure out for a long time. And for some reason they were like, let's test this out on these unsuspecting strangers. Okay, fine. And then at some point they ended up finding each other. They ended up marketing the fact they found each other, like the triplets, obviously an insane occurrence, right? To realize you have two living brothers which look just like you. And then of course the last part was, oh, they were doing experiment on us. So you would think, you know, this is like an interesting documentary, but literally what I told you just now sums up the entire thing. You don't have to watch it, because I literally just told you everything. I mean, there are like some bits and there's like a reveal, you know, like I want to get into it because it's not really, I mean, it's important, but that's not really the point I'm trying to make. But it's just like, okay, so this is it. Like this is all this documentary has to offer, and they spend like the first 20 or 30 minutes establishing this backstory of, oh, they were brothers and they met, and it's like, oh, that's cool, but we know that already. Like that's the title of the movie, Three Identical Strangers. Like that's, you don't have to explain it again. It's you know what I'm trying to say. Like it was kind of confusing to me. It's like, why are you trying to make a documentary? And then of course you realize that, oh, you know, well, I realized, I mean, obviously it's different for everyone, but I was just like, oh, I guess this documentary is not that good. For me, like I didn't enjoy it. Like, is it good in like an objective sense? Sure, like it's like it tells a story, it's an interesting story, obviously, but in terms of how much it respects my time, I would say it does not really respect my time. And it definitely does not have 2 hours of content in it. So it just felt prolonged, and for some reason, maybe they thought it was cute and was an intentional choice. They repeat everything like 3 times. And it's like maybe that was like a directorial choice. Someone was like, hey, we have 3 identical strangers. Let's just repeat every information they say 3 times. And that's fine, like that's cute. But like when you do it for an entire movie, you know, I begin to question maybe the mission statement of what you're trying to portray here. For better or for worse. Okay, so I will pay these fellas. I don't know if it's a good idea. It's probably not a good idea, actually, now that I think about it, but... Okay, so I need one of you to pay out. You know what? I'll remember that. Hopefully this is the sun. Oh my god, that's so lucky. Now I'm gonna play all of them again, and none of them are gonna pay out, so this is gonna be even funnier. Are you ready for this? Oh, Jawbreaker. Nice. Caffeine pill. I'm gonna get a pill, and hopefully this is gonna be another full health. Or this one. I have 2 chances to get a full health. Sun? No. Another Judgment. Oh my god, this is insane. Tears Up. A great pill. Speed Down, actually a very middling pill. I'm still not sure what Jawbreaker does, but I know for a fact I can't play any more of this. I've already wasted 6 hearts, and I'm going into the next floor with basically 5 hearts, which is problematic, but hopefully we're going to be able to find some red hearts and actually be a little healthier towards the end of it. It's not like I need money, so Ivy Bag is very redundant now. Okay, so this is just there we go. Fun fact, if you take a tears up and a tears down pill, it's actually still a tears up, because you get a little bit more tears up from the tears up pill than you get the tears down from the tears down pill. A little known fact, not many people know this, but so if you take both, you don't have to feel bad. And because now you've identified them, essentially, it just means you don't have to take another tears down pill ever again. Really trying hard to make a point about pills. But hey, you have to tout what you believe in, right? Like, that's, I wouldn't say that's kind of the most important thing, but it feels important. So the documentaries, like if you want to watch something, I have a few good recommendations, like the Fire Festival. The Fire, that's just the title of the documentary. It's about the Fire Festival. A great little bit of insight into the crazy world of delusional rich people and promises. A great little bit. I recommend it a lot. Another great one I really enjoyed was Voyeur. And that just has an insane premise. But I really liked how the documentary weaved in not only the story of the person who was peeping, but also of the person who was trying to publish his work. So it was great in both that respects. And if you just like kind of pay attention, like I feel you're gonna get your money's worth with that one. Another one I enjoyed was there's a few more, but they're not really meant for general, like for the general public. I feel like they're a little bit too specific. But yeah, let's just leave you with this too, so I don't rack my brain too much. I actually have to focus on the game a little bit, because I don't have a lot of health. You see, I just walk in and start shooting because I'm in the middle of the train of thought, and it's like, oh, enemy. But if I actually stopped and thought about it for more than half a second, this would not happen. That's fine, it's fine, don't worry about it. Okay. So another thing on my docket list, in terms of repentance, is I was just thinking about modding, right? Modding, that's a thing that was a big thing, especially for this channel. Like, it's actually what kind of exploded this channel when I first started making those videos. And I wouldn't say, I mean, I miss it to an extent, because modding is fun. But I'm just wondering, like, how the modding is going to change. Because for now it's disabled. I'm not sure if it's because it's not ready yet. I think that's probably the most likely case. But another reason was I was thinking that maybe they disabled it because they didn't want people spoiling things for themselves, or spoiling them for others, I guess. Or just figuring out some of the secrets of the game before actually being able to find them as a community. And in both cases, I think it's a very fair thing, right? Especially like, if it's not ready, like you can't put it in if it's not ready. But when that comes out and that eventually gets released, I'm thinking of taking a stab at it and just seeing like how much has changed, and then maybe I'm gonna do some update videos on that. I don't know how many of you are still interested in that, but if that's something that you're up for, maybe this is a good time for a plug. I do have a Discord server, which, to be fair, is not super active in the sense that a lot of people are talking every single day. But it's active in the sense that I do take a look at it quite frequently. If you have any questions, if you want to chat or whatever, I'm always there. I just wanted to say this. Thank you. So yeah, if you're interested, I didn't put it in the description because I'm a little dummy. I made a new description for Repentance, and usually I would include like all the links to social media and Discord and stuff like that in the chat. I mean in the description, but I forgot, obviously, and I'll do it. I'll try to do it today. I'll try to remember. So if you want to join it, or like if you want to follow me on Twitter or anything else, or if you want to subscribe to the channel, if you're not yet, I assume you are, but you know where the buttons are, so that will be most welcome. And this is probably the first time in history I've ever explicitly said that, but really I've been thriving off the interaction I've been having with some of you, and it's been real fun. And I kind of want to keep chatting, so there you go. That's what's happening. Okay, so we're on the Mom's Heart floor, and oh yeah, another thing I did forget to mention. I did unlock It Lives, which means that now we can go to Show and the Cathedral, which means that the gates of opportunity are open to us to actually explore this game a little bit further. So we're gonna do exactly that. Troop the Whoop, another classic item. I love it. And so wait, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking how to approach all of this. Cause like, okay, so another dilemma I've been having, right, is how do I, because some of the new content is gonna be probably very fun to discover and explore for the first time. And I'm just thinking, how am I gonna approach it in the sense that I'll be able to retain. I mean, I did say in one of the earlier episodes that some of it is gonna fall through the cracks, and that's just obviously something that's gonna happen. But because I actually start, I mean, I work this week as well. I think I mentioned it, but we're in full lockdown again, and for me that just means that I'm going to school, which means that I basically I'm home, right? And I work from home, and that's great because it allows me a little bit more flexibility with my Isaac videos. I can record when I'm done with work or before work or whatever. Obviously, when you actually have to go somewhere, or like when I have classes, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Okay, so it was a shame. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. So I'm just thinking of how to manage it, because I probably won't be able to upload one video a day. So I might record, like, I would say 5 episodes or something like during the weekend, and then just kind of stagger them throughout the week. And then maybe I can do live recordings of videos. So yeah, this is just something that's been kind of rattling in my brain, or how I want to navigate it. So Brimstone, actually. Sulfur instead of this seems kind of really good, actually. I'll take it. Let's go down. I've been going down first because I feel like the chest is a more prestigious sublog, so I'm gonna do it later. That's basically my reasoning. So I'm thinking, yeah, that I'm gonna record a few episodes back to back during the weekend, and then I'll just... I didn't even see where that fellow was. My bad. And yeah, sorry. And then I'll just stagger them throughout the week, so they're gonna be a bit more joined together. So hopefully until next week I can actually get to some more interesting content. And then I was thinking that eventually I'll start doing daily runs again, and that should be a lot of fun. I don't want to do them now for the reason because there's a lot of... In daily runs you have everything unlocked essentially. And daily runs are... And because everything is unlocked, you just basically spoil things for yourself, and I don't want to do that, so... Okay, so it was like a hard little... Okay. And then eventually some challenges, especially some of the new ones. I mean that's gonna happen early, but just in terms of variety of content, so you don't like watch the same run over and over again. I think that's gonna be a fun one. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of exciting stuff. I've actually wanted. So here's a little secret of mine. I really like movies and shows, and I mean, actually anything that you can watch, I'm a big fan of. And I've been wanting to do a video essay on a specific show, which has been my favorite, and I feel like is a little bit underrepresented in the online community. Like, it's just not a super well-known show, but I think it's genuinely like a masterpiece of the modern century, and because there aren't a lot of video essays about it, which is what I enjoy to watch, I was thinking that one day, I'm not saying anytime soon, but one day I want to make a video essay, which doesn't really fit with my other style of content, but at the same time I just enjoy having my YouTube channel for all of my creative endeavors. So I'm just wondering, like, if you're someone who watches video essays, or if you even know what a video essay is. Because for me, like, they're one of the purest forms of content, because in a sense they're opinion pieces where people just kind of describe why they enjoyed something, but oftentimes they're also kind of research pieces, because people, when they make them, do make quite a bit of an effort. I mean, the good ones obviously make quite a bit of an effort to find some of the details and some of the lesser known things about whatever they're covering, and it's just a really interesting little format, and I always enjoyed it because it's not too long either. It's usually filled to the brim. It's like a little mini documentary, but a little bit more opinionated. So now that I said this out, like, it's just like a documentary. Usually the commentaries are opinionated by whoever made them in the first place, so there's that. That's another problem with the commentaries. A lot of people watch them expecting they're gonna find like objective information, but usually they just end up reflecting the views of the viewer. I mean, not the viewer, the director or whoever made it, and it's. I would say it's a real problem in the sense that people. So, for example, I remember I watched Tales of Area 51. I think it was Bob Lazar, or what's his name, and Bob Lazar is essentially some dude who claims to have worked in Area 51, and he claims to have seen aliens and stuff like that. And he's a convincing fellow. Like, he's a very convincing fellow. But there are some discrepancies in the sense, like, he always tells the same story. Like, it seems like he's a little bit premeditated. He's been doing this for 30 plus years. And just generally, he's not able to provide any concrete data for the things he's been claiming, right? So that's usually a good sign that maybe someone's not being super honest. But whoever made the commentary is actually, I think, at least that's how it felt, a supporter of Lazar. And for that reason, if you just watch the commentary, like, you're gonna walk away from it not with a skeptical attitude, which I think would be the right attitude to have in this situation. Not because I don't think aliens don't exist, like, but just forget what he's talking about, just in terms of, like, how much can he substantiate his claims, and, you know, he can't, and that's why I would be skeptical, not because of the subject matter. Like, that's completely irrelevant when we're talking about proving something, right? And that's, again, an important distinction to have. Like, you can make crazy claim, you just have to substantiate it. And in this case, he didn't, and I feel like he didn't, at least. Maybe some people did. Like, the person who was making the documentary definitely felt like he did, so. In that sense, it's a very subjective piece, and obviously that's completely fine. But the issue is when people watching it and the people creating it are not aware it's a subjective piece, right? Because they're like, oh, obviously I believe in this. I have no reason not to believe in this, and they become kind of tangled up with their emotions. And I'm not saying being unemotional is the correct thing to do. Rationality has its own downfalls. But just in terms, if you're watching documentaries to learn something, like, that's something to be aware of. If you're watching them for entertainment, like, I mean, I hopefully, you know, most people have. I mean, I watch them for entertainment, that's why I'm saying this. Then it's fine. Just be aware, right? Don't go around telling people that you just watched a crazy piece about. I mean, you know what? You can do whatever you want. It's fine. I'm just trying to live in a. So this is the teacher in me climbing out, and I think this is what. Every little bit becomes a lesson in how to navigate our lives, and I feel like these are the skills that are important, right? So that's why I kind of repeat them often. And I try to make a point for them, but obviously, live your life however you want. Don't let me dictate anything you do or say. It's probably not a healthy attitude to have. So, one little thing that got changed in Repentance is with the last stage of this fight, and not just the last stage, also the mom. But basically, the feet stomping down have contact damage now, and that's cost me my life more than once. Because I just keep running into them by reflex, especially if I have a cube of meat. And it's a darn shame. But luckily, I think that we're gonna be fine today. We only got hit once. That was with one of those attacks from the second stage. So yeah, that's it. We did it. Another productive episode in terms of we did some unlocks. We're getting to Shoal. We're going to the negative. We talked about aliens, we talked about crazy parks, so there was just a lot of topics covered in this one. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you next time.